look at this thing. So here's the basic bottom line of what you need to know about what's going on with the Social Security Trust Fund. And one of the things that you have to understand is that our trust fund is in a little bit of a spicy spot. What do I mean by a spicy spot? Okay, so just to keep things really simple and really clear and really direct and really forward, the Social Security Trust Fund, everybody believes, everybody knows that there's money set aside and it's going to be there so that we can make it to 2033 before the shit show happens and the fan puts it all over the room and everything goes to hell, right? Kinda. I wanted to do a video specifically on the myths or the crazy things that people say about Social Security benefits. But then I realized I can't actually do that because a lot of people don't understand how scary the situation is with the trust funds. There was this guy who did this cool article. Real quick, let me go into it. It was from avpress.com, November 26, 2024. It was produced, which is today. It's by Jacoby at globe.com. It was Jeff Jacoby that did it. Let me just read to you basically. A lot of people believe that this trust fund money is just sitting there waiting for us to go ahead and be able to use it to pay everybody their 100% of benefits. One, is there money in these Social Security trust funds? That's what people really want to know. They want to know, is the money there? Can we access it? Can we touch it? Can we use it? Can we have it? Is the Social Security trust fund money there? That's what people want to know. Answer. And I really like how he did this because we're going to use this and then go into some really big stuff, okay? There is no money in the Social Security Trust Fund. It is true that the Social Security Trustees report shows holdings with asset reserves of $2.8 trillion at the end of 2023. But those assets, that chunk of money, is an illusion. Social Security doesn't own $2.8 trillion in gold bullion or $2.8 trillion in shares of stock or $2.8 trillion in real estate or $2.8 trillion in cash. All it has are the treasury bonds, the IOUs from the federal government for money that the government has already spent. Let me just read that to you again because this is the important part. How much money is in the trust fund? How much money is actually there to float us into the future? There's none. The government has already spent it. The government issues what's called IOUs in the form of special bonds. So, and this is, and I see Cat H with the big wide open eyes in the comments, and this is why I need you to understand why we're not in such a great position as a Social Security beneficiary user of the SSA, right? We want to get our benefits, we want to have them, we want them to be good, etc. But there's a problem. The problem is that there technically is no money set aside. It's all just in the form of bonds that the Social Security Administration calls upon. But in reality, the government has to go ahead and print money and borrow money and tax money to be able to access the money to pay that $2.8 trillion of trust funds that they're supposed to have ready to roll to give you your 100% of whatever benefits you're on. Specifically, the retired people are in the most screwed situation. Next in line would be the Medicare people, but they pay in, a monthly thing, so they're not in as bad a situation as the retired people. Then we go to the SSDI people, okay? Now, have you noticed that the SSI people are never in a bad situation? And that is because their money comes directly from the general taxes. Have you noticed that welfare and SSI is always funded in full by the government? Kind of a weird situation. The people who paid to play get effed. All right, let's keep rolling. So here's the deal. Between 1983 and 2009, the Social Security system ran surpluses, right? People paid in so much FICA taxes that they had extra money. They collected $2.8 trillion more in payroll tax than paid out in benefits, but that money wasn't saved. It wasn't walled off in a lockbox to fund benefits for future retirees. It was simply added to the government's general revenues and used for other federal programs because they were able to take the money and issue IOUs. Now, in other words, the government lent itself the money in exchange for a promise to pay it itself back. That's what a bond is. It took the money, it gave the American people an IOU, it promises somewhere in the future when the bonds, basically become due, that they will pay them back with interest. The equivalent of writing yourself a check to deposit in your own checking account. The IOUs in the trust fund are merely an accounting device, nothing more. As the Office of Management and Budget acknowledged in a candid 2000 report, Social Securities trust fund balances do not consist of real economic assets that can be drawn down in the future. Oh, we got a rocket. We got a big rocket. That must be one of Elon's bigger rockets. Instead, there are claims on the Treasury that, when redeemed, will have to be financed by raising taxes, borrowing from the public, or reducing benefits or other expenditures, being printing money. So the big thing here is, and I might have to get the doggies out here. Guys, so the big thing here is this, okay? A lot of people don't realize how incredibly scary this situation is because bonds are highly, highly volatile. What do I mean by that? Now we're getting into the big rocket. We may have to wait a second for that rocket to take off because remember, I live right next to NASA. So if you guys are ever wondering where I live, it's right next to NASA. Let me see. All right, so real quick, Princess, thank you for the $2 donation. You can actually see the lights are shaking. All right, let me get these doggies out of here real quick. Let me get these. They should be good. It's gone. It's up there now. All right, here we go. Oh, I don't know. They're running. They're gone. They're like, screw you. This is not a safe room. They're gone. Look at that. All right. So, sweetie, run. There you go. All right. So bottom line is this, okay? We have a situation where most people believe that they can access this trust fund money. No problem. No issue. Nothing at all, right? No problem. But those trust fund dollars don't really exist, because we issue what's called special bonds. Now, I want you to understand the size of 2.8 trillion. And the best way that I could think to help you understand that is the following. These are the top 20 countries that we as Americans owe money to. All right, guys, come on. There's Bermuda. We owe them in the 20th spot, $77.4 billion. Then there's Germany, $91.3 billion. Then there's Norway, $104.4 billion. Korea, $105.8 billion. Saudi Arabia, $111 billion. We owe France. Remember, this is all we owe them. We have to pay them literally a monthly amount towards that debt. Then you've got France at $183.9 billion that we owe them. Singapore, we owe $187.6 billion. Brazil, $214 billion. Hong Kong, $226.8 billion. India, $232 billion. Taiwan, $234.6 billion. We've got Ireland, $253.4 billion. Canada, $254.1 billion. Cayman Islands, $285.3 billion. Switzerland, $290.5 billion. Now we get to the biggies, the top 5 that we owe. We owe Luxembourg, $318.2 billion. Belgium, $331.1 billion. The United Kingdom, $668.3 billion. China, the number 2 spot, $859.4 billion. Japan, $1.1 trillion. If you take the top 4 countries, right? Japan, China, the United Kingdom, I think it was, Luxembourg? No, it was Belgium. Okay, you take the top 4. All the money we owe to them is how much we're supposed to have in the trust funds that have been spent by the government because they issued special bonds. Now, let me give you a little understanding as to how this works. Okay, this is straight from the Social Security website. That way you understand what special issue securities are. Let's go through it real quick. Here we go. Also, D. Basman, thank you for the $2 donation. That's absolutely amazing. That was the first super on the live stream. Also, Batty Beth, see you with the $1.99 donation. Thank you. That's awesome. Very, very cool. So I want you guys to really get the nugget of what these bonds actually are that they issue against the trust funds. Because, people say oh, they stole our money. that would be an accurate statement because they used it for things and then issued you bonds that you don't really have control over. You just hope that they can pay those bonds, but they won't be able to pay those bonds if ... the US currency reduces in value in significant ways as a result of the reserve currency being the US dollar used by other countries to buy stuff from other countries, pay off banks and debts. If that reserve currency declines significantly, like it's beginning to do, then they will not be able to make good on paying back the IOUs from those special treasury bonds. Okay, trust funds and types of investments, straight from the SSA website. The Old Age and Survivors Insurance Trust Fund and the Disability Insurance Trust Fund, Retirement and Disability Trust Funds, comprise the Social Security Trust Funds. Both funds are managed by the Department of Treasury through their Bureau of Fiscal Service. Since the beginning of the Social Security program, all securities held by the trust funds have been issued by the federal government. There are two general types of such securities: special issue bonds, available only to the trust funds, and public issue bonds, which are marketable treasury bonds available to the public. We don't use those anymore. Okay. The trust funds now only hold special issue bonds, but they have held public issues in the past. That's where people could buy literally bonds against, the Social Security trust funds. Special issue types and properties. There are two types of special issue bonds. There's short-term certificates of indebtedness and long-term bonds. Okay, the certificate of indebtedness, these are issued on a daily basis for the investment of receipts not required to meet current expenditures, and they mature on the next June 30th following the date of issue. Okay, so super duper important to understand. These are your short-termers, right? These are your, faster turnover bonds. Then you have the special issue bonds, are normally acquired only when special issues of either type mature on June 30th. The bonds generally have maturity ranges from 1 to 15 years. Okay, so just to clarify again, certificates of indebtedness, they could be, basically brought in frequency within, daily base use and creation and maturity within the next, June 30th. Whereas the bonds, they generally are 1 year to 15 years in length. Now, let's talk about this real quick so you kind of understand the basics here of what's going on. There is a giant, massive report created by the SSA. Let's go through it real quick over here. And this report, and I know you guys, look, I know you don't print these out. I know you don't read them because you don't enjoy sitting by the fire and printing out the 2024 annual report of the Board of Trustees of the Federal Old Age and Survivors Insurance and Federal Disability Insurance Trust Funds. I know that you guys don't get out your little coffee and your little fireplace and just dig into this puppy. But I want to go ahead and basically show you what they're talking about with this indebtedness. We're going to go over to, let's see if I can find it real quick. Man, I might be able to find it real quick. Hold on. What do we got here? All right, yeah, we're going over here. All right. So what we're going to go over to, so this is specifically for the retirement trust fund. Okay. So remember, you have multiple trust funds, and you have to add up how all of those trust funds, how much indebtedness they actually have. So the retirement trust fund is currently at the end of 2023. I don't know if you can read it. It's right here. It is $2,641,490,000,000 in debt. So the retirement trust fund is $2.6 trillion in debt to the American people, which is, that's a lot. That's a lot. The American government, the U.S. government, which, spends, I always think it's funny when the government's like, you should save your money. Well, U.S. government, you also should, but they're not good at that. They issue IOUs and they spend the shit out of it. So the bottom line is, that's your retirement trust fund. Now, to keep this video short, I'm going to pop directly over to the disability trust fund details, if I can find it. Remember, it's a big report. I'm going to see if I can find it on the quick. All right, let's see what we got here. All right, here we are. All right, so here you go. Total asset reserves. So what we're looking at is $146,973,000,000 operation of DI trust fund for calendar year 2023 for December 31st, 2023. So basically, you need a hell of a lot on reserve, or a hell of a lot less on reserve for just the disabled population, because it's a much smaller population. It's like 7-8 million compared to the 70-something million that you've got for the retired. The point is, I couldn't do the video that I wanted to do, which was going into the myths, the legends of things that people don't get right about Social Security benefits, until you know and you understand specifically what happens with these trust funds. Now, I'm not making this video to scare you. Peaches, thank you for the $4.99 donation. That's absolutely amazing. Let me put a little heart on there. And Batty Beth with the $2 donation. Very cool. A little heart on there as well. That's awesome. Much love to Sweetie and Shadow. They're right over here, actually. And I have a status update on Sweetie that I'll share in the next video. But bottom line is this. If you understand that the Social Security trust funds are the thing that pay enough money so that you can go ahead and have your full disability check, your full retirement check, then what you have to study and understand is what happens when the US dollar devalues significantly. I don't know, like the past 4 years, right? Past 4 years, good example of that. What happens is those bonds become more difficult to fulfill when it comes to actual taxation of the American people as a comparative against the work that they do to earn the bucks and then hand over the tax dollars to the federal government. Makes it harder for the government, realistically, to value the US dollar in a really great way. And as a result of that, it makes it harder for the government to pay back the IOUs on this money. What's happening? The problem is this, okay? And I think it's incredibly important. You have to understand that the government is scared. The politicians, the senators, the House reps, the president, they're all scared because they know one giant thing is coming down. They know that the G7 summit countries, which all use the US currency to trade internationally, versus the BRICS, which are kind of like your Russia, China, Middle East countries, they're now in competition. Some of you don't know what that stuff is, but if I were to simplify it at high school level, what it is the G7 group use the US as their own banking system to buy US dollars, to pay off debts, to buy things from other countries, etc. And all those countries we talked about, like Luxembourg, Ireland, Belgium, China, Japan, they all took debt, right? They gave America money because they were buying protection from the US in case something goes real bad. Remember, Japan let America borrow $1.1 trillion because Japan has China right next to it. So it wants the US to make sure that Japan can go ahead and like its currency. And Japan is buying our, agreement to be in bed with them for business deals to the tune of $1.1 trillion. That's international politics. That's using the massive military machine of the United States as basically a tradable security. Now, with that said, what's important here is that if the US dollar significantly decreases in worth, then at the end of the day, paying off those special bonds that become due after a year, become due after 15 years, becomes really difficult for the US. Why? Because realistically, they can't tax the taxpayers any more money. They don't have it, right? The taxpayers are swimming in student loan debt. They can't afford houses. They can't make more money because the companies are a total shit show right now. It's terrible. Like, if you wanted to be like, what's the worst modern financial economy that we've ever lived in the modern age? It's right now. It's right now. It's today, right now. So the reality of all this is that you can't tax the workers more. So then you have two options. You have an option where you can go ahead and print more money, which you can't do because if it does that, it's going to devalue the dollar. Or they can go ahead and take more loans. Well, they can't take more loans against the US population, and they can't take more loans from other countries because they can't afford the interest rates on those loans. So we're in a really unique spot, and people don't get it. People think that the money's going to be there. It's not there. It's literally not there. It's in an IOU special bond. It's a piece of paper. That's literally what it is. It's just all it is an accounting piece of paper from the U.S. Treasury that says IOU Social Security beneficiaries. It's scary. It's scary. So that's the idea you have to keep in mind with this situation. Now you fully understand the 2.8 trillion in debt that the U.S. government is to the Social Security Administration's beneficiaries. Now you get it. Now you understand it. I see there's some shocked people in here who are like, holy shit. I know some people already know this, but I wanted to make sure the general public had an understanding as to how these bonds work. And also, I wanted the American people to understand that watch this video, that if we don't keep the US dollar strong, like have a good economy, then we won't be able to pay 100% of your benefits. Because remember, anything that weakens the dollar weakens the ability of the US government to pay off those special bonds. And when that happens, right, when it actually occurs, it means that they're speeding up the time, okay, that it would take for you not to get 100% of the check you're already used to getting. All right, we have another video. The next video is massive, massive, massive. The SSA, through Commissioner Martin O'Malley, just mic dropped 6 rules, new rules. I don't even think they're allowed to do some of them as just the administration. I think they need Congress to do some. But to be fair, Biden's going out. Commissioner Martin O'Malley is probably going to be DNC chair. So at this point, what do they care? They can tell the American people that they're doing it, and then the Republicans can't take it back, because if they take it back, it's going to make them look horrible. We're going to go through those 6 new rules. There's even more than that, but we're limited to just 6 for that video because I have to wake up and go to the homeless office tomorrow. With that said, Attorney Walter Hnot, I hope you learned something from this video. Please remember to like. Please remember to subscribe. Please remember to become a member if you want. Also, the big thing is head over to Google and type in Disability Resolution Law Firm or Disability Resolution Florida. Throw some reviews up there. I always love seeing them. Also, keep in mind, Mondays and Thursdays, I go live to answer questions for free on YouTube. And then if you have a big question, there's a 1-hour private session contract in the bio area. I'll catch you at the next video. I'll see you soon. The next video is going to be a big one. I'll see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye, everybody. Bye-bye.